Hello, Marta. It is very nice for me to have a fire chat with you on this event. We are after the 6 months of pandemic or hard situation for our families, for our businesses. How can you see this situation from the lawyer point of view?
Hi. Yeah, well, that's true. I'm a lawyer, but I was lucky enough to work all my career almost very close to the business in law firms connected to the consulting firms. So from the business perspective, which is very close to my work, I would state a hypothesis that the pandemic made us a rehearsal of a world of a future user. The world that would apply to all areas of life and business, including law.
So on a lot of conferences, we said that there will be a future users of digital services, of mobile services and so on, but the future is now. So in your definition, what does it mean, the future user?
Well, the main feature from my point of view of the future user is to have everything fast and comfortable at all cost. And for me as a lawyer, what law needs to do, it's to make all those processes as fast as comfortable as possible. It stands before very difficult alternative: to regulate or not to regulate, right? To give freedom or to give protection.
Okay, could you give us some of market example according to such an opinion, such a vision?
So the best practical example I could give would concern blockchain, which is still not very much regulated by law, and it is considered to be the biggest advantage. However, what the example that I would talk about is the DAO hack. DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So it concerned a community investment organization gathered on the blockchain, built on the Ethereum blockchain, and gathered around the concept of code is a law, which basically meant that it was supposed to be built aside from the legal regulations. Rather, the code itself, the smart contract built on the blockchain, was to regulate solely the whole relationship between investors. And it was very enthusiastic that the investors were about that concept. However, until June 2016, when the DAO hack happened, which basically meant that one of the investors, to say it properly, but not to go into details, he used the vulnerability of the code and gathered funds in the amount $60 million back then, which we would say they were hacked, they were stolen, but everything happened within the code, which, as I said, code was the law. So if, to be conservative, there was no stolen funds, there was no hack. However, was the blockchain, was this DOA regulated by law, automatically would come all the fundamental principles of law that would protect investors. There would be gross injustice, there would be unlawful influence, there would be consideration of the intent of the parties, right? This shouldn't have happened, although investors agreed that was a huge amount of money, right? So most of the investors agreed to make copies of the blocks, to create what is called hard fork, which basically means that you create two parallel blockchains, in one of which hack never happened. But was it, once again, was it regulated by law? We would have all this protection. And the unfortunate is that whenever law tries to protect, it also implements requirements, which basically slow down the development of new solutions, which makes them less flexible. Still, you need to ask the question, watching the example I said, was it worth it?
So as I understand, when we are fascinating of technology or business model is interesting for us, we don't treat law as a, so we don't need law. Yes, we think that we don't need law, but
right.
when there is a problem, yes, when the risk changes into the fact, we are thinking how this law and regulations or lawyer in the company can help us, yes? Because I think that still as a consumer, when, for example, we go very fast through the digital process, we accept all of the agreements, all of the, let's say, teacups, yes, we are making. We don't think what is behind that, yes? Or even in the companies, when we are business owners of the processes, we very often treat a lawyer or legal department as a barrier of development. But on the other hand, in such a cases about which you said, we are going to the law department and we are asked for help. So in these circumstances, when on one hand the technology is growing very rapidly, and on the second hand, let's say, there are a lot of areas of new risks we already don't know, what is the role of a lawyer of the future?
Well, mainly not to build barriers. So we should talk about modern lawyer, right? The lawyer that helps, that facilitates the development, new technology, new solutions, although always indicating points of considerations, all the risks, legal risk, but should look for the way how to help actually to prospect for the prospect of those solutions. So I know we are as lawyers pictured usually with the fountain pen and this noble big white sheet of paper. About sheet of paper, would you know that already now, just in the very basic legal acts, Polish legal acts only, you have over 50 different types of contracts and agreements that can be alternatively signed electronically. So the question is, we go to the trends, we go to the need, and we try to find solutions. We are, for instance, not so much attached to the concept of ownership. That's fine. Let's find the solution for sharing ownership. Just let us answer also the question how we deal with the responsibility. If we want to make the cross-border trade, that is great. Take into account the local regulations. Maybe the solution would be the EU-wide qualified trust services. If we want a reliable way to identify our contractors, there are also legal tools to do that. We've got the concept of EID, and whenever it is not available, let's try with video conference, with other tools, which basically, is it possible under law? It is. Is it easy to implement it? That's another question, right? So at the very end, it all comes down to the question whether our client, our customer, is ready for what we can offer, and whether this new solution from our side, new experience, this customer experience, what kind of experience we can deliver at the end. So that's very practical. And yeah.
And you, thank you for this, let's say, hope for the cooperation between lawyers and business owners within the companies. You noticed blockchain. What are the, in your opinion, relations between blockchain technology and trusted services? Is it possible to have something common to make, let's say, common projects or tools, or there are two separately ideas of how to make electronic transactions, and these worlds will not talk with each other.
Cooperate, right?
Cooperate, yes.
You touched a huge topic, which I'm really keen of, and I can talk very long
But we have still 5 minutes, so...
Yeah. Just to say, I might sometimes seem to be controversial. I don't tend to, put great emphasis on the blockchain. There are also several other very well regulated and done solutions, and I think blockchain and trust services should be also treated separately as two different ways of very reliable and way to identify other, rather trust services, rather to identify the other side of transaction, but to make the transactions reliable as such. Although there were some cases that those two were, there were attempts to make to cooperate together. I'm not really the fan of that solution, I must say. But we'll see. I think the future is for both, as I said, parallel. We should consider in different cases either one or the other, and not necessarily in the connection.
And okay, thank you for this opinion. I think it is quite interesting for our audience, because we had a lot of discussion about blockchain also within this forum. So my last question is about the future, about the projects. What kind of projects you made during the pandemic situation in your firm as a lawyer? In which areas mainly you helped your companies, and what do you think, what will be the future projects for you and your company regarding digitalization in terms of law?
Well, of the most popular issues that come up, of course, the whole concept of paperless and the way how to approach the remote contracting, which basically begins also with the identification, which is the huge problem of this particular half a year. This is the way how to discuss it. As I said, does law allows it to happen? Certainly it does. Does practice and the way we use the law allows to do that? That's another very rather big topic. However, what about the future? I could use the old, I think, Dutch proverb, which says it is very difficult to make predictions, especially if you make them about the future. So I would stick to that. Nevertheless, in my opinion, future belongs to the technology and new tech solutions, and it also applies to lawyers. So the transformation that we do, digital transformation that we assist, they are also dedicated not only to the business as such, but also to the legal departments and to the lawyers. This also you can see the growing popularity of the legal tech solutions in this respect.
I don't know what is the position of lawyer on this very famous list of professions to be totally digitalized and robotized. But I hope that even in another year, still we will be able to talk with each other personally. And thank you for this fire chat, and thank you for your time.